Hi, folks. Welcome. I just wanted to share some information about this Sunday's summer solstice on June 20th, 2021, and some of the astrological energies that are expressing along with it that can be really useful to know about. And just a reminder, astrology is a language that helps us track human experiences, and I consider it to be the archetypal language of the soul. But the planets are not in charge and they don't dictate our behavior. And the way astrology works is more similar to looking up into a mirror because the same divine intelligence that created the planets created us. So the planets aren't in charge, but they can be useful to know about, just like it can be useful to know about the weather or dates on a calendar, because they are reflecting our human energy and our human experiences back to us. So it's like looking in a mirror, they can offer insight or information to consider and to digest. And as always, you can feel very free to disregard that information or my perspective on what those informations are trying to show us at any given time. So the solstice occurs on June 20th at approximately 10:32 p.m. in Central Time. I'm speaking to you from Chicago. And there are many times of the years where it can be useful to look at astrology energy, but certainly the two solstice times, as well as the two equinox, are pretty potent times to just kind of tune in and see what information is expressing for us to know about. Some folks really do enjoy doing some ritual around those times, in the day before or the couple days leading up, or even the couple days after when those energies really shift in a meaningful way. And ritual can be simple. It can just be sitting in a chair and lighting a candle and doing a meditation. It can also be just reflection or going for a walk or just reflecting on your life at certain times. It doesn't have to be associated with any ancient tradition or anything like that if that doesn't feel comfortable to you. So in astrology, the summer solstice occurs when the sun moves from the Gemini terrain into the Cancer horoscope. And I'd like to share with you some thoughts about what Cancer energy represents in astrology, because at any summer solstice, it can be useful to reflect on these particular types of Cancer themes. And then I'll also share some thoughts about this year's solstice chart in particular and some of the energies that are expressing that are unique to this year. And the summer solstice energy can be useful to know about because it sets some themes and energies in motion that are important to know about at least until the fall equinox and potentially through the end of the year until we get to the winter solstice. So in astrology, Cancer energy has to do with what we nourish and what we cultivate in our lives as the summer season begins. It represents the mother and the family story, where we put down roots and establish a sense of belonging. And it has a lot to do with our emotional feeling nature. Cancer energy is quite sensitive, vulnerable, and protective, and at times it can get easily emotionally overwhelmed. But really, at its best, Cancer is a receptive, nurturing energy, and it's very tenacious. And it sort of asks each of us the question of, how do I feel what's needed, and how can I respond to what's needed? And even if someone wasn't born during this time of year, during the Cancer time of year, even if their sun sign isn't Cancer, we all have the sign of Cancer somewhere in our charts. So this can be useful for each of us. And so when the sun at the time of the summer solstice moves into that position, it activates that part of our chart. So that's why it isn't just about those folks who are born under the sign of the summer solstice. Folks who are born at all times of the year can benefit from reflecting on these types of themes and energies. And that's true every year at the summer solstice. But this year's solstice chart contains several noteworthy aspects which give it unique significance and meaning. And planet Jupiter is especially prominent during this year's summer solstice, and it's considered to be, in general, a more positive or beneficent planet bringing positive energies, but it's not, it's not etched in stone that it can only bring or associate with positive energies. But in my opinion, it offers extra protection and support and encouragement this year for building secure personal foundations, and strengthens that summer solstice focus on home and family and emotional connections. It's especially prominent this year for several reasons, but one of them is that on the day of the solstice, Jupiter, in its own path through the sky, appears to stop. It doesn't obviously stop, but it appears to stop. We call that a station point, and it appears to begin its retrograde cycle. Again, that's only in its apparent motion, how it looks to us from the vantage point of living on the Earth. Obviously, Jupiter is not stopping and starting, but it looks that way from our point of view. So those station points are especially strong in astrology. It's almost like a cosmic emblazoning of a moment with extra exclamation points and cosmic meaning. So it's pretty cool for this year that this upbeat energy is offering us increased faith and confidence to lean into our goals and to help point our lives and ourselves towards a horizon, to kind of just reflect on where we're going and who we are and what's important to us right now. If a path doesn't appear to open forward for us and to pursue a particular goal or desire, then that probably suggests that it's not the right time for that goal at this time. And it could come back at a different time when it's more easy for you to work with that energy to help pursue that goal. But it's important to stay open and alert and continue to really listen to our inner wisdom and continue to kind of scan the horizon and continue. It's a good time to be asking ourselves, what do we really want? And to look for guidance, internal guidance to help kind of propel us along the way. In my opinion, some key themes to help facilitate progress for the remainder of this year are to really try not to take our blessings for granted. It's important to notice the good that's in our lives. That's, of course, a lovely way to live anyway, but it's especially powerful when Jupiter is making its presence known in such a strong way. And then to also let go of unrealistic expectations of ourselves and others so that we can just have a more clear point of focus. And then to take action on those projects and in those relationships that seem to be responding to us more easily. Some things are going to seem to move and shift more easily now for us. And so go ahead and work with those and try to keep the focus on those. The downside of this extra Jupiter energy could be that we could waste opportunities and we could get a bit lazy or wasteful, and we could become a bit indulgent. Sometimes excess Jupiter energy has to do with excess in general. So we could, overindulge in things that aren't necessarily good for us, and certainly not in large quantities. So we could lose the moment, we could lose those opportunities if we're not paying attention, because Jupiter can just, it can feel like so much fun. We can just get into the moment of having fun or overdoing things or partying or reconnecting with people we love and not necessarily notice the opportunities for growth or development of those opportunities that are also present in that fun, upbeat energy. I think also in general, it's important to notice that the energy of the astrology chart for 2021 does seem much more geared towards being ready for progress and being able to take action. Last year, there were configurations in the chart that have so much restricted energy, it did make it harder to move forward. And it's no surprise that what was expressing astrologically, we were also experiencing here on Earth. I mean, a lot of us were on strict quarantines and weren't able to move forward, even though we may have wanted to. And interesting that as for some of us, there's a bit more freedom this summer to get out and about and to express. That's what the astrology chart is also showing. And that's how astrology works. If we're experiencing something here, then there should be something similar expressing up in the heavens. And in fact, that's what's going on. There's also a really kind of prominent configuration expressing at the time of this year's summer solstice. It's called a fixed grand cross. And that just means that there are four planetary positions in locked into opposition. So it's like they're 90 degrees apart or they're 180 degrees apart. So they form that cross configuration. And it's fixed because those planets are expressing in the more stubborn fixed signs of the zodiac. And, you know, in general, we can grumble when we see a pretty challenging, pretty strong configuration like that expressing, but these things do happen. And sometimes, in order to have change, we need stronger energies expressing because they're very dynamic and they get our attention. And when four planets are sort of moving in that type of configuration, it's like they have to find a way to cooperate, or they'll just kind of shut each other down and cancel each other out. It's like it can be at its best useful friction where you're kind of rubbing up against something that strengthens you, kind of like the theory of how diamonds, you know, become lustrous is through that tension, through that rubbing up against something. And so a fixed grand cross has these energies pulling away from each other and in contradiction to each other in some ways. And so all four of them are there. It's not that one should dominate or that anyone should win, but that ideally they would all express and that they would all find ways to contribute, even if they're not necessarily in cooperation mode when that's happening. So the moon at this time will be moving through the sign of Scorpio, and that kind of drives and activates that powerful configuration. And it's moving opposite the planet Uranus, which has to do with sort of unexpected growth or unexpected developments or things that kind of land in your lap that you didn't see coming. Although if you reflect on it, you maybe could sense that there was a need for change in a certain area or a certain part of your life that Uranus seems to be activating. And so it could seem like sudden, unexpected opportunity for change, which ultimately, especially on a spiritual level, on a big picture level, has to do with getting out of situations that were too constrictive. So Uranus cares more about, you know, being your true self, your authentic self, and getting out of limiting sets of circumstances that can help you to function in a more authentic way. So it can bring unexpected challenges to existing situations, but it can also bring welcome challenges or welcome opportunities to get out of the status quo, to get out of our routines. So thankfully, not everything unexpected is upsetting. And this combination could serve as a validation or fortification of the deep desire and the human needs that we all have that are unique in some ways to each of us, and in other ways somewhat universal. So it can also help with the willingness to pursue our desires and our unique goals in innovative ways, in ways that we couldn't access before. So this energy could offer, and what I'm calling an essential audacity, a willingness to take healthy risks that we just haven't been able or willing to take in the past. So it's possible that we can begin to see more clearly that we're all interconnected and that everyone needs support, and that we could also begin to realize that some of the more cautious folks needed more meaningful support in the past, that people who were reluctant to change in the past weren't necessarily lacking in courage, but maybe an opportunity and in meaningful support. So this is about the evolution of meaningful support coming into people's lives in a way that they can recognize and begin to take action on, which is pretty exciting. You know, moon opposite Uranus can be exciting and offer opportunities to grow that previously just weren't there, or they didn't go well. There wasn't enough support that they could be followed through. So the moon also comes into contact with Mars, and Mars is moving in opposition to Saturn. And I just want to share some thoughts about what that can mean as well as we continue this. I'm trying to do a brief but down and dirty kind of discussion of all these things that are expressing right now. So when Mars and Saturn encounter each other, Mars likes to take action, and it can be very impatient, and it can be easily angered. It's sort of the principle of taking action. It can be assertive. It's expressing in the sign of Leo, which can be very fun. Leo can be, with Mars expressing, can be a genuine desire for creative expression, to connect in good-hearted ways. It can activate more generosity, desire for fun and celebration. So that's another reason why it could be fun to either gather with others to honor the solstice, or to just gather with others that you care about and that you love, because Mars and Leo would really loves to do that. Mars and Leo can also activate a willingness to speak up on our own behalf and to make sure that we're getting the recognition that we deserve. It does not like to be ignored. Now, as it moves opposite to Saturn, Saturn in Aquarius is sort of the opposite principle. It's more reserved, it's more mature. It can be a little, if Mars and Leo can relate with excessive pride, Saturn in Aquarius can associate with excessive logic. So it can kind of look in a disdainful, superior way down its nose, so to speak, at people who are just being playful or celebratory or expressive or kind of needing some of the limelight or to play and have fun. So the opportunity with these two energies is to really allow the teacher of Saturn in Aquarius. It can be a wonderful teaching energy. It can be a wonderful coaching energy. It can be mature, but it can also really observe others and notice other people's strengths and talents. And it can offer ways to develop those strengths and talents. So we're each sort of being given opportunity to feel what we want to express, and then also access the smart, intelligent, mature parts of ourselves that can actually do something about it, that can actually take boisterous opportunities and ideas and use them as just like to experiment, to discover something new, to plan something new, and to relish just that whole process of, well, let's see what we can discover here. Let's do an experiment for the sake of learning. Let's have fun and express our creative selves for the sake of what we might learn at this time. So, but again, the challenge is to try to get those two pieces to cooperate with each other, to function as a team. And at times, I think with this fixed grand cross, we will have success doing it, and other times we won't, because Mars will want to go and Saturn will say stop, and then it could short circuit some of our efforts. So we might need to, at times, attempt something more than once over the period of this summer or even through the rest of the year to actually get it up and running and to have fun with the process and to use the insights and maybe even the technology, because Saturn and Aquarius can relate with ways of using technology in new ways, to just kind of keep practicing until we get better and more comfortable at using those resources. I know I'm rushing along. I'm trying to make just a quick video. All of this information, by the way, is posted in my blog as a document with some fun visual illustrations of this time and these energies. And it's posted on my blog at theresemurphy.com/blog. I try to post minimum 4 times a year with each of the solstice and equinox. But there are times when I have other things to say, whether it be about an eclipse cycle or just the start of the year in general. So if you want to really savor these energies or get into them a little bit more in depth, I have posted it on my blog, and that's www.theresemurphy.com, and just go ahead and click on the blog and you'll see this information in more depth. Some people like videos, so we're trying to put this information out there in the most useful forms for as many people as possible. So another prominent aspect of this summer solstice is that the planet Venus is moving opposite the planet Pluto. And it's also connecting with in a very lovely way with the spiritual planet, Neptune. So when these energies all combine at their highest potential, we can have extra compassion and extra creativity and extra imagination, but it can also bring intensity and power struggles at the same time. So these energies can be used in ways to really deeply transform ourselves and to integrate our best selves in with our strongest, truest, most honest, and resilient version of ourselves. I think that is the highest potential of these energies. But along the way, we may come into connection with our less evolved aspects of ourselves that are feel maybe a little bit more threatened or need, we're probably going to be bumping into the parts of ourselves that are ready to evolve and ready to get past old fears. And sometimes we encounter that by, okay, the old fears get stirred up. So we could really have opportunities to dig deep and connect with a true sense of strength and mission or purpose, and to have more compassion for ourselves and others as we do this and as they do this. And I think we may, at this stage of our journey, notice some of the ways that we've already changed, the ways that we're already evolving, how we're more aware and more interested in noticing who we really are and how we're evolving and who we're becoming. It's like we're shedding the skin of the past, and we can see that we're no longer the exact same person we once were. And that can be really encouraging and very just interesting to take note of and to have some faith in. So those are the higher aspects of this energy. Sometimes, the more there are some more obsessive or potentially negative expressions of this energy, which could have to do with wanting to escape difficult situations through behaviors that don't serve us, that are more addictive or more obsessively focusing on something outside of ourselves. And so it can be an important time for folks who are dealing with traumas and memories of trauma. This can be a powerful time to seek support. Remember, Cancer energy is about support for evolving through those fears and through those challenges. And certainly, I think a lot more people have a lot more awareness about just trauma in general and about, getting support for that in healthy ways so that we can evolve through those experiences and to become stronger as a result of having experienced some challenges, and to have compassion for that, because it's not an easy process and it takes support. Most of us need some help to realize, that we have some pain and that we want to evolve through those processes. And this video is not designed to try to coach people or give people advice about how to do that, but to just offer the awareness that this is a time of human existence that's very ripe and very opportune for seeking support to help us through challenging times and challenging energies and emotional issues, and to transform those. I mean, a lot of people will really have some strong experiences of becoming more powerful and trusting their strength and trusting their own sense of mission through this lifetime, which is pretty cool. It's actually, I think, wonderfully cool. And also at the time of this solstice, there are 4 planets going to be moving in retrograde motion, including planet Mercury, which you've probably heard of Mercury retrogrades before. And so retrograde energies often remind us to slow down and to digest our experiences a bit more, even as we continue to move forward, because it's harder to move forward. Just because from the point of view of the Earth, these energies and these themes and these planetary concerns seem to be moving backwards. So they're not moving backwards, but we experience some of their energies that way. So it might just be a reminder to take our time and to know that we're going through important change and exciting change, that a lot of powerful planetary energies are here and they're available to us as our allies. We'll have some good days and bad days with it over the summer and again through the fall potentially. But these are energies of digging deep, and that we have those strong energies available to us to really use to help us build strong inner foundations that can sustain us in the weeks ahead, the months ahead, and even the years ahead. So this we are uh, spiritually really evolving and being given opportunities to grow and build more solid foundations. And that is sort of a quickie snapshot of some of the unique energies that are expressing at the time of this summer solstice. And of course, I do honestly believe that one of the best ways to be more aware of these energies is to have your own astrology chart looked at, or maybe have another form of intuitive reading. And I'm always honored to work with people and cast a chart for them and do an interpretation or perhaps a tarot card reading. I've been doing both of those services full time since 1998. Again, I'm honored. And these prominent times like this are often great times to have those services done. So you can contact me through email, Therese@theresemurphy.com, if it seems like a good time for you, if you feel like you would like to have a reading. And I can do that remotely through phone or Skype or Zoom appointments, or if you're here locally in the Chicago area, we can meet in person in my office in the Chicago area now that the CDC and the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago have opened up more fully and at this time in response to the COVID crisis. So thank you for watching the video. Thanks for tuning in. I hope this was useful for you. Again, if you want to look at these themes more in depth, I've written about them on my blog, and I hope that you've enjoyed this information and can make good use of it in your own life. Thank you.